Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both, that morning, equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet, knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. Robert Frost. Welcome to the Lost Traveler podcast. I'm your ever-loving host, Henry Cameron Allen, and I'm very excited today to meet a new friend and have our new guest, first-time guest, Kathleen Donnely Israel, join us on the podcast today. She has a fascinating story to tell about what would you call it, Kathleen? A spiritual journey to Spain and Portugal, and share a little bit about yourself. You've written a book about it. I'll put a link in the description. And welcome. So happy to have you.
So happy to be here. Thank you, Henry. Hey, I just had the blessing of being able to walk the Camino Santiago from France and also from Lisbon a couple of years later. And so I took care of my husband who had Parkinson's disease for 17 years. And then when he was done with his disease, I needed some more dreams because I thought we would be riding our bicycles across France in our old age. And so when that wasn't to be, I had to think of something else. And my girlfriend walked the Camino Santiago, and I thought, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And so since I was a widow, I could spend as long as I wanted. So I chunked out 3 months and went to Europe. And that was the first time, and walked the Camino from France to Santiago.
Well, first, sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
I've had my share as well. And both my son, Cameron, who passed from brain cancer when he was 13 years old, and then my father last October to COVID, and it's
my gosh.
We talk a lot about the grieving process here on the Lost Traveler podcast, not only because it's my own journey and I'm finding fellow travelers on the Camino, as it were, but it's something that I think globally we are challenged by. Is that to me, this podcast is all about essential universal life skills that we all experience. We all are learning in one measure or another. It's not a question of whether we learn them, it's how well do we learn them and from whom do we learn them. And so a lot of us learn them on the job. We don't expect those moments when our loved one turns a corner, whether it's our child or our partner or our parent. And how do we handle that? What is your it's a moving story, and as is yours, and I know it's I haven't lost a partner, but I know that it has changed my life, and it's changed my relationship with grief, my perception of death, my spiritual life. Tell us a little bit about your biography. Where did you come from? How did you get from there to here? Your life story in a nutshell. The Reader's Digest version, I call it.
Reader's Digest version. I grew up in San Diego. We're an old San Diego family. My my very ancient uncles came to San Diego to help build the Hotel del Coronado. I don't know, a lot of people have heard of that, but
I just got
they
chills.
were, they were woodworkers, yeah. And so so I grew up in San Diego. Um, it was, I have 5 siblings, and it was a traumatic childhood. My father was an alcoholic, rageaholic, child molester, for God's sakes.
Oh my goodness.
And so, yeah, so I had a lot to heal from, and I got married to Ron, who was a San Diego family too. His family were the lighthouse keepers out at Cabrillo National Monument here. I mean,
Wow.
we're an old San Diego family,
Wow.
and we had 5 kids, and raised them in Lakeside, which is right outside of San Diego. And right about 1999, we moved back to San Diego, and I started studying expressive arts therapy. And
I just got chills
yeah.
again because I'm an expressive arts therapist as well.
Oh,
What are the odds?
I went to the European Graduate School in Sassby, Switzerland, and
Fabulous.
and yeah, so, and the ISIS Institute here in San Diego. Um, and so and then right after I learned transformational breathing. My husband and I, that year, 1999 was the year. I was actually 50 years old in 1999, and we moved back to San Diego. We learned transformational breathing and became facilitators, and then I started the training in Switzerland. So anyway, then he got Parkinson's disease 2 years later, and we started that travel, that road. He was fine for just like 8 years, and then the last 7 years of his life, he couldn't walk and he couldn't talk, and I just had to be here and take care of him.
Wow.
And so I went online, and because I had to be here, couldn't go anywhere, and
Yep.
I mean, I did go a few places, but so I studied with enlightened thought leaders to heal from my trauma from my childhood. And so after so many years of studying all that stuff, I developed some philosophies of my own. Although I really don't like philosophy, I never liked it. But anyway,
Why is that?
I don't know. I mean, when I was studying expressive arts therapy, the philosophers that they had us studying, I just kept thinking, who cares? When I heard what they thought was important, I was like, who cares? You know, so anyway, maybe people will think that about mine too. But anyway,
No,
I deserve
there's a
it. I
line.
deserve it.
There's a line where philosophy can cross into dogma, just like anything else, like any, spiritual path or philosophy. And you dance across that line always when you're dealing with thought. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, I feel like my philosophies aren't dyed in the wool yet. And so I'm really open to something to learn, but I've learned a lot. And so then when I went to write the book, I was like, oh, I don't want to seem teachy. Does that sound like, the imposter syndrome or what?
Yes,
But
I recognize it all too well.
and so I remembered that I told people about all my philosophies on the Camino, as pilgrims talk, and so I wrote my book about walking the Camino and telling people about my philosophies. So
Now,
that's what my
really,
book is about.
that's beautiful. I mean, you talk about it in terms of being a pilgrim. Was it a spiritual pilgrimage for you that stemmed from your religious foundation or something you found later? How did that come about for you? What was the inspiration?
Well, I am a Catholic and I do love my faith, and I actually apologize for that in my book, but I'm such I'm such I mean, I feel like my Catholicism is like an ethnic thing for me. I feel like I'm more Catholic than I am Irish or, German or French or whatever I am.
Yeah.
And so I present it as like an ethnic study for people. So I'm not trying to, convert anybody or anything, but I do have my philosophies in there.
Well, I think
um,
you're not
so
alone in that. It's refreshing, actually, I think, to hear. For years, I've turned on the television and the internet and have felt bombarded with messages of support, begging for money to support children in Africa, Afghanistan, India, all over the world, war-torn countries. Children are starving, not only for food, but for education and love in some cases. um, I recently connected with Desire childcare organization that transforms the lives of orphans and vulnerable Ugandan children in Kampala and Mukono by providing wholesome food, housing, healthcare, and creative arts education from early childhood to adulthood. Won't you join me in helping save orphans and vulnerable children? We can do it together, one organization at a time. I chose this one. Visit desirechildcare.org for more information. Thank you.
and so the the Camino Santiago de Compostela is a spiritual pilgrimage, and the the beauty of the pilgrimage was not lost on me. I It was a spiritual journey for me. And after my husband died, I have a friend. He brought me to this spiritualist church, and at the spiritualist church, if they're there for the first time, they give you a reading. And so the reading was that I was going to that I had it in my heart to go on a journey, and the journey was so deep, deeper than I ever thought, back to the earth. And that was just a real confirmation, that I was going on the Camino.
Wow.
I mean, it was like the week after he died, and I really appreciated having my husband with me, even though he was ill. I could dress him up, and we could go to the theater. We would go to the Old Globe Theater and see the plays, and that was a blessing in my marriage, is that he loved the theater, and so
Mhm.
did I. And so, yeah, we before we had children, we used to go see all the plays. We bought the package, and then after we had the children, they got into school, we were like, okay, we can only see the Shakespeare plays. And then after they got in high school, we weren't seeing plays anymore.
I think you're
So
probably the last of that generation that has that had a family tradition of going to theater and really investing in and respecting the history and the art of theater. I think there's I'm, as an international theater artist and a lifelong career theater artist, I'm conservatory trained, studied at the National Theater Conservatory, and have been a director for most of my career. Um, it's so important and I'm so glad you bring it up in terms of the journey theme, because the theater is really the only ancient tradition of storytelling where people can gather together with strangers and have a shared experience in a safe environment that will expand their consciousness, that will give them insight into the lives of other people, situations of other people. You can be in the room with a violent criminal. You can be in the room with a transcendent spiritual moment and go along on that journey in a safe environment and then go home and reflect on it, either with yourself or with your partner or whoever. It's such
Right.
a unique art form.
Yeah, you should see right now we're doing Midsummer Night's Dream at the Globe. I've seen it 3 times.
Uh,
And well, I was an usher 3 times, I guess I should say.
Thank you for doing that. We need ushers. God bless the ushers.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, Lysander is a woman.
Beautiful. Love it.
It was like, oh my gosh, they're just having so much fun over there. Anyway.
That's a whole other podcast about gender fluidity in theater.
Yeah, and they've got race fluidity, and
Yes.
they're really doing it over there.
Well, and that's what we do in the theater. We reflect our time, right?
Yeah,
We have.
they are. Yeah.
Tell me, getting back to your story, where did you first become aware of the Camino Santiago, and when was the first thought that you had that you might want to walk it? It's pretty vast, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah. Well, I saw The Way, the movie The Way, a
mm,
long time ago, and then in 2013, while I was caring for my husband, my girlfriend Judy, who I used to walk to school with when I was in high school, um, she did the Camino and put it on Facebook. And I was just watching all this. And even though she got blisters and was walking with bloody feet, and I just recognized that it was something very special for her that she was accomplishing. And
mm.
I just thought, you know what? I want to do that. I want to do that. So yeah, that was my dream that I replaced my dreams with Ron with at
Wow.
that
Well,
time.
he was with you. I mean, I get the sense that when you're going on a journey, an adventure, uh, from a spiritual place within yourself, that that person who's been closest to you shares the journey.
You are so right. You know what? When I was in Switzerland, going to expressive arts school, um, I I would, I was away from Ron, and I would go around and pick up heart-shaped rocks and
Yes.
bring them home so he'd know I was thinking about him.
Oh,
And then when I started walking the Camino, I can't believe it, but like every 10th step, I saw a little heart-shaped rock on the ground. And
wow.
I thought, I think Ron's here.
Yes. You know,
Right.
I took the 10-year milestone of my son's passing and took a trip to Ireland, around. I
Oh,
took a road trip. I was in the Cotswolds in Stroud, England,
oh, wow.
and I had a car, and I thought, I'm just going to go. I'm going to drive down to Wales and take the ferry. I have a service
Mm,
dog, Flat Stanley, and he came along, and without a GPS, without a map, without any plan, we went on an adventure for a week.
mm.
And you know about the thin places, right?
No, no, but
These,
oh, like Avalon and stuff like that. Is
these
that
are the
what you're talking
places
about?
that the Irish call, that are usually places of extreme jaw-dropping beauty and
Mm,
magnificence.
mm,
And it's the places, the thin places, where the veil between worlds is thin. There's something you feel, there's an energy, there's a majesty and a magical quality to these places, which
mm.
Ireland is full of them. I mean, you turn around
Yes.
every corner, there's a rainbow. And
Yeah.
and I went on the most, it was a pilgrimage. And I felt my
Mm,
son Cameron with me
mm,
every step of the way. He and I had always dreamed of going to Ireland together. We never did when he was
mm.
here. And we were able to make that journey together. I had a photograph of him on the dashboard of the car. So he was
Oh,
really right there.
yeah.
And it was it was deeply spiritual,
Mm,
and not only connected me to Ireland for the first time, and I have Irish blood as well in my genealogy. Um, but it also allowed me to, in a sense, lift the veil and understand that, in my perception anyway, or call it philosophy, that death is an illusion,
Mm,
that we are, as even science, I mean, getting beyond the spiritual, when we talk about science and the science of physics, right? Energy is everything that we know. Everything
mm,
tangible and intangible is energy. And energy cannot be created and it cannot be destroyed. It just transmutes, changes form. And so,
mm,
what does that mean for the whole concept of death as we've been taught it, as we
right.
struggle with coming to grips with it? Isn't it up to us then to, through these experiences, these journeys, and pilgrimages, to sort of hone within ourselves our capacity to sense beyond the physically sensible, and
Mm,
call it super sensible, that we have other senses besides the five, right? And we can
yeah.
sense something is different in the energy around this experience and beyond. Shadow and Light LLC was established by Dave Roberts and Reverend Patty Farino, co-authors of When the Psychology Professor Met the Minister. Their mission is to empower individuals to transcend life challenges by integrating spiritual practices with psychology to achieve peace. They are available for individualized spiritual counseling, virtual or in-person presentations and workshops to universities, organizations, and other interested groups, virtual or in-person book club meetings. For further information, go to psychologyprofessorandminister.com.
I believe in the afterlife. It was so cool to go to that spiritualist church. I mean, it didn't bother me at all, being Catholic and all that. It
Sure.
doesn't. I mean, they actually talk to the dead, for gosh sakes, and it's so sweet to. I mean, I went in there and I asked her. I told her my husband died, and she was like, "Oh, wow, he must have been a good man because he already crossed over." And
Mm.
um, even though he crossed over, he's here with me. I mean, gee, he helps me find things. I
Yes.
mean, he, gosh, the day after he died, the door in our bedroom, I made this door. He used to sit in this chair and watch TV all day. And the doctor told me, well, you can't leave him unless he can get out. So I put a door right by his chair and a deck out there so he could get out just in case I went to the grocery store. And so every time I went into that bedroom, the door was locked, was open. And I would close it and I'd go in there again and it would be open. And then after the third time, I locked the door and I said, okay, Ron, don't creep me out.
I think more people than you know have these experiences, but we're hesitant to talk. I'm so glad you brought it up. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, is my finder of lost things.
Mm,
And I had that relationship with her since her passing. And my son was, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years old. And I had a townhouse in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And he was up in his room on the top floor and he called down to me and he says, Papa, would you ask great grandma Elaine where my book is? I said, no, honey, you ask her. You develop your own relationship with her. If you ask her, she'll show you. Like 2 seconds later, found it. I mean, it's that kind of a thing. It's so
yeah,
true what you're saying. I think we all have this.
that that's one thing I would tell my kids. My son was kind of into, well, I don't need to have a relationship with God. You got enough relationship for both of us, Mom. And I'm like, no, God does not have any grandchildren. We're all first issue from God. You got to have your own relationship with God. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so my philosophies go along the lines of forgiveness and possibility.
Mm.
Actually, I do not feel like I need to forgive anybody anymore,
Mm.
because I believe that I brought everything in that I've had. And I believe that before I came into this earth, I was a spirit out with God in the universe,
Mhm.
and I had a low vibration, and I wanted to have a high vibration so I
Yeah.
could be closer to God.
Yeah.
And so I found out that on the earth, you can raise your vibration if you come in as a person, because unconditional love raises your vibration.
That's right.
That's really, and so even knowing that I had a low vibration and I was going to attract crap in my life from right the beginning. I mean, I did,
Yeah.
even before I was born. I attracted crap because my dad accused my mom of getting me from somebody else, whereas he was the one that was an idiot, not her. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, um, so when I came in, I attracted him, and my mother, who was not paying attention, because that's the only way you could live with him, right? And so anyway, over the years, I just became a really sad person. I became a really sad person around age 4 when, he started molesting me. But I just, it made me sad, and my sadness was a low vibration, and it attracted more sad stuff. And so my life was just you kind of wonder why do bad things happen to good people. Well, my life was an expose of that.
Oh.
And and um, the thing is that my spirit wanted to be good, and I knew that. So I didn't buy into all the negativity. I was just flabbergasted and didn't fit into my whole life. And so I did get some good things. I got a good husband, but I mean, he had his we all have our challenges, right?
Right. Right.
And so anyway, I think going into the transformational breathing was the beginning of my turning around my life, because they had us studying all these smart people like Byron Katie and um, what's her name? Debbie Ford, Abraham Hicks. So I was just getting all this stuff that was such a revelation to me, especially the Abraham Hicks, that really helped me turn around. They had like do this, and this.
Yeah.
And also the Ho'oponopono, that I learned Ho'oponopono, and
Yes. My
I mean,
last guest is a practitioner.
right,
In the last
right,
amazing. I mean, talk
yeah.
about vibrations and frequency, and
I read
it's
that and I was
all
like, oh
coming
man.
together.
Yeah. And so when I heard about Ho'oponopono, I'm like, this is going to change my life. And so when I started with the Ho'oponopono, I started feeling shame. And I was like, well, I know this is not about shame, so I must be doing this wrong. And I was kind of analyzing it. So you go, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And okay, I was saying, I love you. I love God. God loves me. God loves that other person. The other person loves God. And if you can say it, I love the other person. And then it's, I'm sorry this happened.
Mm.
Please forgive me for what's going on in me that caused me to attract this. And I still was feeling shame from the I'm sorry part. And
Mm.
so I said, I'm please forgive me. And then I said, I forgive me.
Yes.
And then I said, I forgive it up. And I felt this refrigerator sized pain come out of my heart and go up to God. And I was like, whoa. And thank you for showing me this so I could heal. Because if I didn't have this adversity, I wouldn't know where I needed to heal.
There's an
I wouldn't feel the
ancient
pain.
philosophy that says when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And
Yeah.
you were obviously ready for that transition, that pivotal moment. Beautiful.
Yeah. my gosh. And then, and I felt like it washed me. Thank you for showing this so I could heal. It washed me off. And so, I mean, I had a lot of stuff to get rid of. So I like that night, I spent the whole night doing that. And, my monkey mind would bring in all these things that were sad things.
Right.
And then I would just do that. And I mean, I felt so clear. I didn't sleep all night, but I felt so clear the next morning. And then I spent at least, I would say, 8 years doing that on myself. And I cleared so much stuff. And I met this person, and after, I'd been doing that for a while, and she said, Kathleen, she sees spirits. I don't see spirits, and she sees spirits. She said, Kathleen, all those beings that were surrounding you, they're not there anymore. So I, in my negativity, attracted all these beings that were negative, and, they were all attracted to me and surrounding me. And when I got rid of them, then I'm much more clear. And so now I get to I get to raise my vibration, because I don't need to, like, I don't need to forgive anybody, because I attracted it all in. And I just need to do my Ho'oponopono and get it out. That's all.
That's amazing. I'm going to put a link. I'll put links to expressive arts and Ho'oponopono and other things that you've mentioned in the breathing in the description, just so listeners, because we have listeners in 34 countries around the world, and we are all finding one another. We're finding a way to, that's why it's called the lost traveler. We're all lost on this in our time and on this journey, and to bring in experts like yourself to talk about and share tools on your journey. And they may or may not work for other people, but to give practical options and tools to others is a real blessing and a real gift. I can totally relate to what you're talking about, because I too grew up in a violent home and had to go through that experience of forgiveness. And what I found for me was, in the end, when we do feel the need to forgive, it's not for the other person's sake. It's for our own healing. It's for our own release and relief, so we don't have to carry that baggage throughout our lives. And for some people, they find it early. They find it in their 20s. Other people don't.
That's so nice. That's why I want to tell people about this, because I'm like, gosh, I'm 73 years old and here I am. Thank you, God. But, maybe they wouldn't have to go through all that.
That's right. We remove the stones out of the path of those that are coming up. A guy wire is a tensioned cable that is designed to enhance the stability of a freestanding structure. Think of me as your guy wire. In terms of life skills mentoring, you're perfectly capable of standing stably on your own 2 feet. But I'm a cable that can enhance your stability. I'm available for individual or couples counseling, life skills mentorship, child loss grief support, LGBTQ plus support. I can also officiate weddings, end-of-life ceremonies, baby namings, invocations, or whatever guidance you may need. I serve all genders, all ages. Sessions are affordable, discreet, private, and conducted online. Find me at guy-wire.org. Book your appointment today. That's that. I think as helpers in the world, that's our gift. That's our opportunity. And I still want to know about this path that you took. I tell me about that whole feeling of, in spite of the blisters and the bleeding feet, why do you do it anyway and experience that pain? How long did it take you? You went twice, right?
You've done two.
Yeah.
You think you'll do it again?
Well, the thing is, I didn't take the same trail.
Yeah.
I went from France across northern Spain the first time, and then I went from Lisbon up to Spain the second time. So it was a different trail. And really, next year I want to go on the Camino del Norte across the northern coast of Spain.
Beautiful.
I love the ocean. I even though that one is going to be more hilly and stuff, and really I'll have my 74th birthday on the Camino up there. But anyway, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yes.
But I think just like that lady said at the spiritualist church, is that it was in my bones. It was I just think it's such a gift to me that that I wanted to do that, a gift from God.
Talk about the suffering part of it. Why, I imagine if you pace.
Okay, so Judy suffered. Judy suffered. I didn't get blisters.
Oh, good.
Because I wear negative ion clothes, and they put negative ions into you all the time. And so I didn't get blisters because my feet were, in a good environment in my shoes. And also every time I stopped, I took my shoes off and let my feet rest, and I put them back on. But that first time I did, I got sick a couple of times. I was still in the throes of my grief from my husband.
Sure.
And taking care of somebody for that many years just makes made my health go way down. Oh my gosh, I had
physical and mental.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So I anyway, the flu was going around and everybody got it. I got it, on the Camino. And so I just wanted to have that spiritual journey. Ron and I used to walk everywhere, and he was an athlete. It was sad that he got Parkinson's disease, couldn't move, but he embraced his disease, and it was fine for him that happened to him. I mean, it's uncanny but weird. But anyway,
was there a breakthrough when you were on the trail, or just before, maybe when you were heading there, where that self-identity of being a caretaker for a partner who's got challenges, physical challenges, and end of life, and on the other side of it, was there a transition that you experienced where your self-identity shifted and you found a new set of wings, as it were?
I guess that happened when I was preparing to go on the Camino, because we raised 5 kids and we didn't have money. We sent them to private school. We were like poor, but we had plenty of money, but it all went to the schools. And so after Ron died, I had money from the insurance, and I could actually buy myself a pack, buy myself some new boots. I could do all that stuff. And that was a transition for me, for gosh sakes. And also, I think about my grandmothers, and their husbands died when they were in their 50s, and they lived a long time, like 40 years without their husband. And I thought about, their effect on my life. And I have 11 grandchildren. And so it made me think about my effect on their lives, and how my life did have meaning, even though I wasn't taking care of my husband anymore. I had a life to live. And my grandmothers took a trip after their husbands died, and I'm like, oh, this is my trip,
So you were inspired by that. This is a tradition.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Wow.
And then Judy, like I say, brought that idea to me. And and so when I was in Paris, I went to Paris for a week before I started, and that just I mean, it was like I used to think I don't get the good stuff when I was a kid, when I was a young woman. I don't get the good stuff. Everybody else gets the good stuff. Here I am with this life that stinks. And and all of a sudden it was like my life doesn't stink. You know, people like me. I'm here and God keeps bringing special things to me all the time. And um yeah, when I went, and then I, went over and went to Saint Jean Pied de Port and started the Camino, and everything there was very special too. And the beauty, like you, I never thought of it as a thing in places, but now that when you said that, I was thinking back across the things, that I saw and the places I was, and I talk about it in my book. I just very descriptive. And I mean, I'm tearing up here. It's just so beautiful.
I can feel
it. So yeah, and when I started walking, I was on my own. I started walking all by myself.
I was going to ask you if you went with anybody or if you were just.
No, the thing about the Camino,
yeah,
everybody walks a different speed. So if you go with somebody, either you're going to have to walk slow for them, or they're going to have to walk slow for you, one or the other, or, right. Oh gosh. And so it was good to be alone. And the other thing is, when you're alone, there is no drama. There's right. No one to complain to, you right. Just, okay, this is it. This is what's happening. And you don't have anybody to talk to about it. And it's just fine. That was one great thing for me. There was nobody to complain to.
Except Ron and God, right?
Well, I guess I wasn't even thinking about that, but yeah, I guess so. I could, no, yeah, God. Well, there you go.
Are there places along the Camino, like rest stops or inns or? Yeah,
they're called albergues. And so that first night I was at the Ballari in Saint Jean, and an albergue is a giant room with a bunch of bunk beds. And sometimes they're a really big room and sometimes not so big, but and there's snoring all night long. You better have some good earplugs.
Yeah.
And
good tip. Good tip for anybody who's going on the Camino.
So yeah, I would just recommend get the little spongy ones at Walgreens or something, right. Because they work better than anything that I bought off, that said it was the best one. No.
Right. Not the sound.
Those ones are the best ones.
Right.
Yeah, no. And so they will have a kitchen if there's a grocery store in town, and you can cook your food. They have all the pots and pans and plates and stuff, and you just bring your food and cook it. Or else if they don't, if there is a restaurant in town, maybe they'll say, okay, so you're supposed to go to this restaurant. They have a pilgrim meal for this amount of money. So they have a cheap meal for a pilgrim. And if there's nothing like that, then they provide the food.
Wow. And do they charge for you to stay in these?
Yeah. But they're very cheap. They're like 5 to 12 euros a night.
Oh, wow. Which is about the same as $1 in value right now.
Right now, but it was $1.13 when I was there. So it was just a little bit more than $1, the euro. So and it's really funny when you get into somebody else's money, if like $1.13 feels like $1, and you're like, wow, this is so cheap, but right. You're really paying $1.13. But you don't know that. It's like monopoly money.
Yes.
And so
I love that. Gosh. I think I encourage young people to travel all the time and deal with different currencies, and that's such a valuable skill, isn't it?
I'm so willing to be bowled over by it, not really realize I'm just, my fantasy brain really works, and so anyway, the albergues, and they'll some of them have a ladies' room and a men's room, and some of them have a co-ed bathroom, and it's just every place is different, and some of them are run by families, and some of them are run by a municipality. Some are run by a church. Like there's churches like in Holland and England that sponsor albergues. And there was one from England, and you go there and they have tea at 4 o'clock, and it's
they're like
yeah,
little angel stops. It sounds like they're little angel stops of people who just.
yeah.
And how long has the Camino been there? I mean, it's
Yeah, so
ancient,
since
isn't it?
the 1200s,
Right.
when in the Oddies, whatever it was, 033 or something.
Yeah.
The apostle of Jesus, Saint James, went to the Iberian Peninsula to tell people about Jesus, and he was not successful. So he went back to Jerusalem and was martyred. And there's a story that the angels brought him back to Spain, but I'm thinking maybe it was some people with the help of some angels. I don't know. But anyway, they buried him in Spain. Right. They buried him in Spain. And so around the 1200s, they found his grave. And he appeared and helped them get the Moors out of the Iberian Peninsula. And everybody liked St. James after that. Wow, St. James, thank you. And so then they made a pilgrimage to his grave.
Okay.
So that's what's in Santiago. And Santiago means St. James.
That's right. Tiago.
And
yeah.
So then they used the old Roman roads, I guess I should say, to get to Santiago. And at the beginning, sometime in the 1900s, they revised it. And so they found that a lot of the Camino was available to walk, but some places it was covered by freeways. And so they made underpasses, and
right.
Actually did have to walk on the freeway a couple of times. But
a lot of anyway. I've heard that a lot of the freeways through Spain especially, but I imagine France and Portugal as well, are actually built in the same locations of the ancient Roman roads, that they were so brilliantly mapped out that they still use those ways today, which is it's really fascinating.
Yeah, even spiritually, that's pretty astounding. The spirits of the people, like, their vessels or something like that going through the country.
Your generous sponsorship and individual support of the Lost Traveler podcast benefits the Lost Travelers Club, a charitable project under the fiscal sponsorship of United Charitable, a nonprofit 501c3 organization. The Lost Travelers Club focuses primarily on the needs of parents who have outlived their beloved children. We recently launched our new Brain Candy Project wing, providing art supplies to children still struggling with critical or terminal health-related conditions. We hope to raise enough funds to launch Brain Candy, an arts and literature magazine created by and for these young people. Find out more at www.braincandy.online. Thank you.
So you just walk from albergue to albergue, and I had a book, and it told me, what amenities were in each town. Like it had these little symbols across the top if there was an ATM or a pharmacy or just different things you might need, an albergue, a
Hospitals, I
bar.
imagine.
Hmm?
Hospitals too, I imagine.
Yeah.
Important to know.
Yeah. So I would, and then also it had a like a map of the altitude. So I could see, okay, so I'm coming to this day and see the altitude that I would be going through. And I could say, okay, well, there's a lot of hills today. Maybe I can only just go 10K today.
Right.
And then maybe if it was flat, I could go 16K or something like that, or 18. So I just planned ahead in that way, knowing what was coming up. And I called maybe a day or two ahead and said, tiene una cama para, esta noche or something like
I
that.
understood that. You have a bed for tonight?
Yeah. And or necesito or something like that. And so I would, find my places to stay. And I did come to one day that I didn't make reservations, and I had to walk 28K that day.
Wow.
Yeah, that was too much for me, an old lady, and but I did it, and it was great, because everywhere I went, they were filled up. And
Wow.
so one of the really great things I got to experience on the Camino was Holy Week and Easter. I was in a town on Palm Sunday, and I spent the night there. So when I started walking, like, I'm Catholic, right? And here I am on a holy pilgrimage, and I'd get in on Sunday and I just flop down and fall asleep, and then I wouldn't get to mass because I didn't ask when it was, and I missed it, and so I decided that I was going to take Sunday off. And so I took, so I would stay in a hotel instead of in an albergue, so I could, stay 2 nights, because you can only stay one night in an albergue. Unless maybe if you're sick, they let you stay, but if you're really sick, you have to go find a hotel. Yeah. And so I got to be part of the Christian community there. I got to be part, I went, they said, I read on a sign on the church door that said, go to St. Francis, what do you call a place where you go? Anyway, go over to St. Francis, and we're gonna have the procession starts there. And so I went over there, and there were people there, and so that was really great. And then this, they call it a litter, and they had a life-size statue of Jesus on a donkey. Yes. And they were going to do a procession, and this truck arrived and dumped all these leaves over there. And so I went over and got there were just different kinds of branches, and so I got an olive branch, and that was my palm. And then the priest showed up, and we walked through the town. It was amazing. We filled up those towns have really narrow streets, so we filled up the whole street from shoulder to shoulder, and
the village that I found myself in, that I've been in for a little over 2.5 years, it's a tiny village of only 700 people, and it was established in 1228. And it is so beautiful, and the tradition, you can tell how ancient these traditions are, and they know them like the best. And the women carry the litters on their shoulders of these huge, giant, statues of the Madonna, of San Sebastian, who's the patron of our village.
Oh, really?
And so throughout the year, there are different festivals. On my Facebook page, I have a photo album that I've been documenting over the last 2 years, because the processions all walk right by my front door. And I just stand in my doorway, and I film and photograph as they go by. And the people are so, it's not what I see in Catholicism in general, you know, in America especially. People here are very, very open. They're very open-minded, very generous of spirit and giving and accepting of all people. They fly a rainbow flag over our town hall for Pride Month. I mean, and this is a very Catholic town, right?
Right. Well, the Pope did say we shouldn't judge people.
That's right.
No.
Well, I think Jesus
Pope
said that
Francis.
too.
Yeah.
I think Moses, you know, it goes way back. But
Yeah.
you know, you're right. These what they do, there's a it's a thin place
Mm.
when you experience these ancient rituals that are so devout, and they're not ever routine. Over the last 2 years, I get a fresh feeling every single procession,
Mm-hmm.
every single time we have a festival. There's a fresh feeling as if it's brand new, and yet it's hundreds and hundreds of years old. I want to wrap up our time. I know you've got to get going. I could talk for hours
I
with you.
know, sorry.
We'll have to have you back for a part two sometime. But what I always ask my guests, if you will, and thank you first of all for going deep. This is all very personal information that you're sharing, and like I say, I've got listeners in every country, and many of them are feeling isolated. Many of them are feeling like they may be the only one going through what they're going through or what they've been through. And, you know, how do I let go of those things that in my biography that still have a hold on me?
I know.
Right.
So
And
many years.
so many years. And this is why I feel compelled to offer life skills education on a universal scale, right? What are 3 practical tools from your toolkit that you can offer to universally to our listeners? You've been through a lot in your life, and you're still having an adventure. You're still going, right?
That's right.
And so what would you say for any age, for any experience, just 3 things, either something that we've touched on already that you want to bring home, or perhaps something that we haven't yet discussed?
Okay, one thing that is trying to scream out of my head here is the idea of worrying. What worrying is making up a bad story and believing in it.
That's so right on.
And it's not real. So we could make up a good story and imagine all the good things. That's where the possibility thing comes in. There's endless possibilities. And when we've had trauma, we get intense on the things that hurt us, and we're tracking to make sure they don't hurt us anymore.
That's right.
And so in that way, the worry comes because, you know, we're like, you know, and so to think about, try and imagine a good story. I used to think it was important to remember my sad story because it was true. But you know what? You know what it was? My sad story was evidence of my low vibration and what I had brought in.
Wow.
And if I just change my mind, like one thing you said, turn the corner. Yeah. Like I can't change my mind because I've got all this stuff behind me, but you know what? Turn the corner. If you look back, you can't see that stuff anymore.
People work too hard at it, don't they? It's actually just a moment. It only takes a moment to make that choice. And when you are focused on changing your behavior, you're still focused on the behavior that you don't want. But if you learn a new skill, all your attention goes on learning that new skill, and effortlessly it replaces that what you don't want to carry anymore.
Yeah. And you can lift it out with the Ho'oponopono.
Yes, I'm so excited
There's
to learn about that.
one thing, another thing that I told to this lady on the Camino, and I do it all the time, and miracles happen when you say this prayer. And the prayer is, "Dear God, please make everything turn out okay." And then you let God make everything turn out okay, because I mean, I say that when I don't know what to do. I can't do anything. I mean, what can I can't do this. And then I say, "Dear God, please make everything turn out okay." And God really likes it when we call God God, because God can make anything turn out okay. And so
What's the
so yeah.
expression? Let go and let God.
Yeah. But I mean, when you say that prayer, miracles happen. I'm telling you.
Okay, I believe you.
Was that 3 or 2?
I think that was 2. Give me one more.
Okay. Um, um, uh,
What
um,
about people who are of a certain age who are caring for an invalid partner? Do you have any practical during that journey?
okay, so the cool thing that I figured out is that, okay, I married Ron when I was 20, and I, the night before my wedding, I really got that this wasn't my life anymore. This was our life. I wasn't going to have my life anymore. I'm going to have our life now. And so, I mean, at that young age, I got it. And so when he got Parkinson's disease, there was no question if I was going to take care of him. I, there was no question at all. And also, if you're going to do the death do us part thing, somebody's going to be taking care of somebody. And I preferred to be the well one taking care of him.
Of course.
He would have taken care of me. But you know what? I didn't have to go through that. He did. He went through that.
Yeah.
So it was a blessing in that way that I got to be the caregiver. I didn't have to be the sick one.
And you got to usher him across with grace.
Yeah.
And I know that there's, I experienced that with my son too. There's no greater blessing than to usher someone gracefully across the threshold.
It's not easy to die. It's not easy. You have to let go. And it anyway, I applauded him afterwards. I'm like, good job, man.
I always give a standing ovation. Like, yes, you made it across. I'm a theater, so it's always a standing ovation with me. But thank you, Kathleen. It was such a joy and a pleasure to share this hour with you. And like I say, I will definitely have you back for a part 2. I really like you a lot. And
I'm writing my book about Portugal now. So
oh, wonderful. Good. Well, great. When it goes published, we'll have you back and we'll talk about that journey.
Okay.
Again, I'll put a link to your current book, which is what's the title again?
Yeah, Wisdom on the Camino, a spiritual journey sharing forgiveness and possibilities to inspire the rest of your life, by Kathleen Donnely Israel.
Beautiful.
And you can buy it on Amazon. And I have a website, wisdomonthecamino.com.
I will share that. Great.
And my special gift to all my readers is in the beginning of the book, you can just go on, it tells you read this first, and you can go to my website. You have to double opt in. I'm really sorry, but that's what they make you do.
That's okay.
And you can see the pictures, because people told me, oh, you should include your pictures. They're so great. And I just thought, yeah, and the book will be $50. So that didn't sound practical.
Right.
So you can go on my website. I made a gallery with portfolios of each chapter has the pictures from that chapter.
Wonderful. Well, I will definitely look forward to going and poking through your pictures. And thank you again. Thank you for sharing your journey and your heart. And I look forward to meeting you again.
Thank you, Henry. I enjoyed this.
All right. Stay blessed. We'll talk to you soon.
Good idea.
Bye.
You've been listening to Season 3 of the Lost Traveler Podcast with your host, Henry Cameron Allen. Visit me online at www.henryallen.org. Thank you to all my guests, and thank you to my listeners all around the world. I couldn't do this without your support. Let's keep striving for a better world together.